Hello everyone. We have a new game on our speedrun with the black pieces against Lauren 1960 rated 1300. So we're going to try to get a Pirc on the board. He develops his bishop to the center. And now the queen. We've seen this before. It's not a normal way to play. We'll just continue with our fianchetto and castling, and we'll take it from there. So now we have the starting setup for the Pirc defense, and we can develop our pieces, control the center. This queen and this bishop have a nice alignment, so I want to bring my knight out so I can attack them. As white makes a bunch of random moves, I'm going to follow forth with my plan. Hopefully he defends the bishop. However, you cannot defend the bishop because queen here hangs the queen. Therefore, you just lose a piece because of his poor development. So now we already are winning against the 1308 moves. I mean, they just move so quickly, they don't pay attention, they're just kind of randomly auto-moving. He moves his queen again to make a one-move threat on the knight, but it walks into the X-ray. We do want to be safe, however. You can retreat your knight back this way. You can also retreat it back this way. We'll just keep it simple and go to b6 and leave this open for our bishop. That way we have new resources to, discovered attacks on the queen, like knight g4. Doesn't do anything on g4, but I'm just saying. Okay, so he moves his knight in. So now, for example, the knight, right? It's loose. So if I go knight h5, I hit the queen and the knight. He has to defend the knight with the queen. Maybe he doesn't see it. Maybe he does. Something like that. Alternatively, we can fight for the center. e5, c5. But since we're up a piece, let me go knight h5 and just piece trade. Give him one more opportunity to blunder. He might take the knight and not even see the queen. Although he's 1300, he still hangs his queen. I don't know how he's 1300 and hanging your queen. Like, that was so obvious what I was doing. I don't know, guys. You can do it. You can definitely climb the ladder. Just pay attention. Turn off the music. My opponent left the game. Nice. Awesome. Put the phone down, shut the TV, actually pay attention, and you'll easily catch your opponent's hanging pieces and stuff like that. So we have to wait 5 more seconds to claim victory. And this game was pretty ridiculous. Claim victory. New opponent. Okay, we get the black pieces again against another 1300 Vovan 666. We'll start with d6, controlling the e5 square so we can develop our knight and it won't be harassed. He brings out his knight, we bring out our knight. He puts the pawn 1. I don't know why all the players are so afraid to bring it 2, but they all keep putting it 1. And now we're ready to fianchetto, castle, get on with our game. White's not doing anything particularly special or impressive, so there's nothing really to address. He's just passively developing, and now he's castling. So what do we want to do? As I always say, you can play e5 or c5. I think in this game I'm going to go for e5. Just a nice stronghold in the center, making it, making f4 not as scary as when you play c5. So he hops his knight into the center. Maybe he intends on creating a pin with the pressure. But I'm going to include c6 just to force the issue. Either retreat or capture. He captures. I'm going to take with the bishop. You can always bring it back and retreat. If you take with the queen, he brings the bishop out and your queen's in a weird spot. You could have gone to e6, but this is also fine. Okay, he's prophylaxis against our light squared bishop. That's fine, we can just leave it there for now while we improve a different minor piece, our knight. We'll see what he does. Okay, he attacks our rook. We'll use this opportunity just to bring the bishop back and trade bishops. Oh, he doesn't even trade. He attacks our queen. We can go knight f6, we can go pawn to f6. I'm going to go knight f6. Improve my piece. Bring it to the king side. Open my bishop. I could go play for f5 at some point. Or I could play for d5. Okay, so he goes d4, creating his own pawn break. What does this threaten? To win the central pawn. So let me attack his bishop with force, so he doesn't have time to do that just yet. He takes. So now that he doesn't have a dark square bishop, do we want to take with the queen? Probably. That way we can put a rook on the d8 square. Although we could move our queen another way. I don't really want my queen on f6 though. Problem is, he can kind of force the queen trade if I don't move it. Not that it's bad for you, but I kind of just want to keep the queens on the board for more resources. So, you know, more complex lines. So we'll take this way, and now if he takes like this, he can't force the queen trade. But he pushes instead. This is like the space gain line in the Philidor. You know, it's nothing to worry about. And queen f4. He does not have a dark square bishop. I mean, he can go for queen trades at best, I guess. There's this idea in the Philidor in a very similar structure or position where you take this and he takes with the queen. You bring your bishop to e6, letting him take your b pawn. Then you go rook b8 and take. It's not the same position, but a similar idea if you were interested in something like that. Of course, kind of want to just play for f5. If I go here though, he might try to force the queen trade. And then I can take the central pawn. So he can't protect the pawn and offer a queen trade at the same time because they're different colors. So it's one or the other, which means I get in one extra turn to play my f5. So he captures. There's a central pawn hanging. There's my central pawn hanging, but his bishop. If I take back this pawn, his queen will come down the center. I think we should just take the central pawn. If he takes this way, he helps our bishop. His queen can't really move because his bishop. If his rook tries to x-ray our queen, we can take this way. And now we're up a central pawn. We have the bishop pair. 2 pawns on central files to 0. So he goes here with the idea pawn up, or why would he do that? I have no idea why he would weaken the dark diagonal like that. Doesn't make it really any sense. And also e4 hits the knight. The knight can jump in the center. It's interesting. Queen c3 or queen b6 there is kind of fun. You also have bishop f5 just attacking the pawn outright. But here, we should have something there. Queen hitting the knight a second time. Yeah, I'm definitely just gonna do this. Because once he goes here, I guess queen c5 doesn't block my bishop, hits the knight a second time, and you can't defend it except with the c-pawn, but that would hang. And if you move it, the rook's behind in the corner. So this should work for me. If you go to b6, then he can defend and you can't hit the pawn. If you go to c3, then he can just move the knight and your bishop's not attacking the rook. Your queen is. So I think c5 is the right square, or the, I guess, accurate square. How else can he defend it? He can't, so c3, and where can you move it? Wait, it's actually trapped, which was not part of my plan, admittedly. Oh yeah, it's trapped. What? Well, that's bad luck. Wait, so then in that case, okay, so he's hitting my queen, but that hangs the knight, right? I don't have to take with the bishop. I can just win a piece. Trade of queens benefits me. I'm up 4 points of material, and now he hits my bishop, and now we can solidify here or do this. I'm going to do this because once I take this, it happens to also defend. So I get to defend while picking up a pawn. So best of both worlds. He attacks the bishop and the pawn. I can't counterattack, so I'm going to lose the pawn. Let me just solidify the bishop on an outpost, so now I never have to move it for the rest of the game, nor this pawn. And now I could get my last minor piece out here with a threat, or here. I guess let's just attack the rook. Our rooks are connected. We have an easy rook e8 hitting the bishop. Okay, he goes to the king side. I'm still going to go rook e8 hitting the bishop because it's a bigger threat than his. He goes here offering a trade of bishops. We're up material, so we'll take. He'll take. And now we improve our king. No more threat. His rook is misplaced, and we improve our king. It's not like a, oh, we have to spend a move bringing our king up. We want our king up for the endgame. So he moves his king so that he can push his f-pawn without the pin. But we just infiltrate, and nothing he does matters. So we're going to take free stuff. We're going to occupy the file. We definitely should have just doubled to begin with instead of taking that pawn, because now he can take the file. He's going for this, but there's nothing there because there's nothing there. I don't have to even respond. Also, if you wanted, you could push past, which is interesting. I guess I'll just double my rooks. Simple enough. All he has is a check. And we'll go this way to avoid any getting stuck ideas in this little cube. And I mean, there's nothing for him to do. He puts his rook there, which doesn't make much sense, behind his own pawn, and it hangs. Throw in a free check. Now we just go back, repeat once, threaten to take this if he moves his rook off of this alignment. Okay, he doesn't. He's up to the task. Okay, let's get behind this pawn. We have two connected passers. You can win this any number of ways. He might resign because he's stuck, right? What's he going to do? Just move his rook back and forth between these two squares? You could, but is there a point? Okay, so he pushes pawns. Let's just bring this guy out. He's actually created a mating net for himself, so maybe I'll just go for that. Okay, now he moves his rook, so that's not a thing. He can give us this check. It is not checkmate. Very important, rook e8. Otherwise, this pawn creates a mating net. Okay. These two pawns are unstoppable. We're up 7 points of material. We'll throw in this check. just to monitor our own pawns as they go up the board. And there's just not enough space for the rook once the pawns are this far advanced. And so the rook cannot stop them. And there's the resignation. I just want to double check I didn't do anything crazy. And yeah, be happy when you see the pawn come only 1 and not 2 in the center. Because if they put this pawn on d4, they're occupying that square, and that square is protected by their pieces, so I cannot use it. If they only go 1, I can put a knight here, I can put a bishop there, a queen there, right? I can use it. But if it's 2, I cannot use it unless I win the pawn somehow. So, okay, just 1 inaccuracy, 97, so that's fine. We can just quickly go through. We already know the starting position is right here. And then e5 or c5, your choice, you know, whatever you enjoy. This was my 1 inaccuracy of the game because you don't even need to do it. You can immediately take and force him to put a pawn on this square. And whenever you can force them to put a pawn on a square, they can't use it for their pieces. They're also letting your e-pawn bypass. So, and you get the easy f5 plan. So you could definitely have taken that right there. But otherwise, force move, development center, force move, improving a piece, force move, improving a piece for free, force move, improving a piece for free, and kind of forced in that he's not making us do it, but if you look at the pawn structure, we want to play f5. Also, our queen doesn't want to be here because what's the point of it being on the square? It just blocks our bishop and our rook. It doesn't make any sense. So you kind of want to move it anyway, so forced to move. But what is the best? Yeah, queen f4 is the best. I think it's the best specifically because it also hits the pawn. It would be different if that pawn wasn't hanging. It would still be a good move, but I don't know about the best. So we do it because it hits the pawn, which I noticed after. He takes, we take this way because we calculate, and black is minus 1.3. So a lot better here because we win that pawn and he has no recourse. He hunts the queen and immediately goes to completely losing for white because we get this pawn. He should have at least taken our pawn so we're not up so much material. Although it does develop our bishop, he should not be getting checkmated. In any case, it's bad for white. So we get the free stuff and our position is just winning. We can just steamroll these pawns up the board with bishop and rook support. Game's over. We start. He immediately makes this crazy move which weakens the diagonal, which he should not notice has a 1300. But we push, improving for free. Free stuff because we're winning material. Now what's the best move here? So it's minus 4, right? So all these queen moves that I mentioned are the winning moves. The best one is the one I played. I'm curious though, because I did want to go to queen c3 at first, but I thought if he just moves his knight somewhere, okay, so we get a rook, he gets a queen. We get a queen, he gets a bishop. So you still get the exchange. Oh, well, yeah, don't move your knight here, obviously. Put it somewhere else. But okay, so you get the exchange there. So I guess you could have gone to c3. But still, c5 makes more sense because you don't have to give up your queen. And then he doesn't move his knight, so he hangs it a different way. It's minus 5, and hopefully you guys can win a position like this on your own. Minus 5.5, which everything is so solid. Outposts. Game's over. Submit your rapid games in my Discord so I can review them for you anonymously if you want. Good luck in your chess, and goodbye.